The trail of the Third Army and the 19th Tactical Air Command of the 8th Air Force is marked by more than 40,000 white crosses. 40,000 dead Americans.
We were young and soldiers called to dedicate our life in the name of God and country. Do what's just for us, go do what's right. A hot band of brothers waiting on our chance to add one more page unto the victory dance. Here am I, Lord, send me. Victory lies in the spirit of the lives of the men who died for me.
Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, here am I. Send me.
This is Michael Broderick, Marine Corps veteran, actor, and Gallant Few board member. You are listening to the New American Veteran on Vets on Media. Now here's Carl Monger.
Yeah, I've been going through there, marking up, trying to send the word out to a couple of Facebook groups that this particular interview that we're doing right this very second is actually being recorded for later instead of usually we do this as a live YouTube interview. But we had some connection issues starting off today, so we had to learn how to be flexible and adapt. So good morning. Those of you that are watching this archived, it's probably good afternoon. But we're recording this on March 6, 2015. And welcome to the New American Veteran. My name's Carl Monger, and I'm very proud to be an American veteran. The New American Veteran is a broadcast of Gallant Few, Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to prevent veteran unemployment and veteran isolation by connecting new veterans with hometown veteran mentors, thereby facilitating a peaceful and successful transition from military service to a civilian life filled with hope and purpose. Our goal is to connect every new veteran leaving active duty with a hometown veteran mentor. And we do this by creating and supporting a nationwide network of previously successfully transitioned veterans that engage locally with new veterans, same military background, same branch of the service, now going through their own transition. And we believe this will prevent veteran unemployment, homelessness, and suicide. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people. Run Ranger Run, the actual athletic part of the event has concluded. We still have donations that are coming in. And when I checked it this morning, we're just a hair under $135,000 in donations. So record-setting year for Run Ranger Run. We had 993 registered athletes. We want to break the 1,000 mark by a long ways next year. And the really remarkable thing about that is all of those, almost 1,000 athletes, covered 73,000 miles total. So I'm not sure how many times around the world it is, but I think it's at least once, if not two or three. I don't know my math, and I don't know my geography well enough to tell you. So I'll have to figure that out and plug that in here later. But thank you, Candace Bryant, who's the Run Ranger Run director. Thank you, Corey Smith, because without Corey's epic journey 3 years ago, Gallant Few would not exist. Run Ranger Run as a major awareness and fundraising event for us would not exist. Thanks to Connectity for doing the wristband bracelets for us, American Marauder for the shirts, SAR, Spencer Allen Ritter and his knife company. He's just released the second iteration of this knife that is absolutely gorgeous. I think you're really going to like to see that. It was won by an active duty person who's actually overseas, and we're trying to figure out now how to get that guy boxed up and shipped off to him overseas. Of course, I want to thank all those teams because we had a number of teams that all came together. And remember, the premise is 10 people come together and commit to a combined total of 565 miles because Corey did that all by himself 3 years ago, walking, running, biking. So we want teams of 10 to come together and do 565 miles, walking, running, biking, and split it up between the 10 people, 56.5 miles apiece. And I'll tell you, 56.5 miles by yourself in 1 month, especially in February, can be a real challenge. We had a bad weather day here a week ago as it was ending, and I was only able to get 3 miles in instead of the 10 that I had planned, and I came up 50 miles. So I fell short of my personal goal. It's tough, but it's getting us all ready for swimsuit season. The most important thing is it's spreading awareness about what Gallant Few does. And that brings more veteran mentors into us. That brings more veterans that need assistance into us. And all of that results in us being able to help more veterans. And that's what it's all about. I want to give a quick shout out to the Raider Project, Nick Kumalatzos, the Marine Special Operations veteran that has started the Raider Project on the behalf of Gallant Few, focusing on Marine Corps Special Operations and Marine Corps grunt infantry troops that have experienced combat. That network is growing very rapidly, and they are helping each other out in a phenomenal way. Another announcement, I'm going to tease you again one more time because I talked about it last week. The Darby Project is a focused effort on Rangers, and we got some cool stuff that's happening on that. And when we're ready to tell you, we're going to let you know, so stand by for that. We've taken almost a dozen Gallant Few volunteers through Burris Emotional Wellness Coaching. And my goal is that every veteran that comes to Gallant Few for assistance or to volunteer to help somebody else goes through two 2-hour sessions of the Burris Emotional Wellness. And it is aimed at helping you overcome obstacles in your life. It's a phenomenal program. I've been through it myself, and I'll be one of the coaches that takes veterans through this. It's it's not something that pries into personal details, so we don't want to know all of the things that are going on, but there are some techniques and things that we talk about there to include some meditation techniques that will help you in every aspect of your life. I want to give a shout out to the Article 15 clothing company, Matt Best and his crew over there. They've been doing a fundraiser since SHOT Show ended that looks like they're about $25,000, and they had originally set a goal of 15, then they raised it to 25, and I haven't checked it today to see if they've gone over that. But they're supporting several different organizations. Gallant Few is one of the ones that we're very honored to be part of the group that they're supporting. And then my last announcement before I bring my guest on is the Nomadic Veterans Take 2 is starting up. Last year, Marty Scoveland and Leo Jenkins took out on a trek all by themselves to just see how far can two guys go with backpacks and $100, and they ended up making it into Europe. And I don't remember what the total number of miles that they ended up covering, but they raised over $20,000 for Gallant Few, which is phenomenal. There's some things about that are going to come out later on, so I don't want to spill the beans on it, but I think there's some media that'll be coming out about both the previous event and then this upcoming July. They're doing it as a competition. They're going to have 5 2-man teams. They're going to have a Marine Special Operations team. They're going to have a team of Rangers, a team of Special Forces veterans, Green Berets, a team of SEALs, and a team of Air Force Special Operations. 2 of each. So the 5 teams, 10 total men that are participating in this, and we're going to see how far each one of them can get and who's going to win. And there's going to be some filming and documentation that's done at the event. It's going to be absolutely awesome, and it's going to do a lot to raise awareness of veteran issues, which is what we're all about. All right, so I'm very proud today to welcome to the interview U.S. Army veteran Michael Mayher. Michael, according to his LinkedIn profile, he's a business owner, headhunter, a consultant, a lecturer, a Dr. Ben Carson endorsed, published author, blogger, and Army, Airborne, and Special Forces veteran. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hi, Carl. Hello to you and fellow veterans. The only thing I'd change about the intro is I was with the first test bed unit of the long-range scout concept, and I was a member of 11th Group Special Forces, but I was not tabbed. Just want to make that clear.
I appreciate that. In this day and age, you have got to be very specific about your service. And you know, I tell people all the time, hey, I went to Desert Storm. I got to jump with 1st Ranger Battalion into a combat zone at the ending phase of Desert Storm, but no CIB, no jump star on my wings. We didn't get right shoulder patches, but you know, nobody was shooting at us. It was basically a Ranger Battalion live fire exercise, and we just want to make sure that everybody understands where we come from, so that there's no distraction based on anything that anybody thinks or perceives about service. So I appreciate you saying that, Michael.
No problem, and thank you very much. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
So, okay, so you go from being an airborne soldier in the Army and doing the things that you said with the test unit, and you end up in Prague in the Czech Republic, if I'm saying that right. And you're doing international headhunting, and you've got this outstanding blog that you post out there that's your career. Help me out. It's your career quest.
Your career quest, yes.
Yeah, and so how in the world do you do that? How are you look kind of like the international man of mystery? You're over there in Prague, and I think isn't that where they film half the James Bond movies? But how'd you get from here to over there?
My family, I'm second generation Czech American. Long story short, after a second divorce before the age of 40, I wanted to visit where my family came from. And so I made a trip here, and I visited a local office in the network of company that I was a part of, and I was offered a job. At the time, I was a single parent. I had a 15-year-old daughter, and I was a single parent since my daughter was 3.5, and then for a couple of years with a second marriage. And that's what killed my military career. I had a very good career going. I was DA select for drill sergeant status, but I had a newborn daughter and a very bad marriage. And if you turn down drill sergeant assignment, you are barred from reenlistment. I got out. Had some tough times, raised my daughter, got into sales. That way I knew I could get home, pick her up off the bus, put her on the bus. And when I moved here, it was just supposed to be for a couple of years. But after 1 year, I knew I wasn't going home. And so for me, it's immigration full circle.
And do you have to have a second language over there? What do they speak? I guess I'm admitting my ignorance of world issues here, but what language do they speak there?
They speak Czech. It's the same family of Slavic languages like Polish, Russian, Slovak. However, it's very international. You can get by here in the beginning in Czech, but if you want to be accepted, and that's what I needed, my family past, which I've traced back to 1729 with 4 family names, that did it for me. And then, of course, I learned Czech, knew a little bit as a child. My mother spoke only Czech till she was 7, so really I blended in pretty well. I still don't speak fluent Czech. I can speak Czech. I can articulate in Czech for business meetings, but English is the international language of business until it becomes something else.
Sure. Did your mom, did she flee Czechoslovakia because of World War II? Is that the?
No. My family immigrated in 1911 when my grandfather was 6, and so Cleveland, Ohio is where they went, like a lot of immigrants from that part of the world. And so no, I'm American-born. My mother was American-born, but her family spoke Czech. She grew up learning Czech until she started public school.
My grandfather's family immigrated before the 1900s, but they came over from the eastern side of Germany. So pretty interesting to look up all that lineage when you go back and see what your ancestors have done. So, okay, so you landed over there. You were only going to stay for a couple of years, but it ended up turning into a permanent change of station. Tell me what you do. How do you help? You have this amazing career blog that's out there. How are you helping people from over there, I guess, over here?
Well, when I became a headhunter back in 1992, I was based in North Carolina. I was in Cary, North Carolina, and I was recruiting sales professionals for medical capital equipment companies and other areas of medical from North Carolina, and I was recruiting in every corner of the country. And as a recruiter, you could be in Antarctica, and if you have a phone back then, you can be a recruiter. So after those years, when I came here, I changed areas of specializations a few times out of boredom, no other reason. And so I got here and I started recruiting, and I recruited Czech professionals for international companies. I've done a lot of different areas. I mentioned medical. I did semiconductor marketplace, automotive marketplace. When I got here to Europe, I did lawyers, professional services, tax, audit, and middle senior management and sales. So I cover a lot of areas. What that has done for me over the years is it gave me a lot of expertise in many different markets, many different professional levels, and the processes of the recruiting process I became an expert in because I'm very hands-on. I work with both hiring managers and applicant job seekers, and I advise them every step of the way, brief and debrief after every meeting, help them negotiate. Right up until they resign, I help them with their resignations. So over more than 22 years, I've become an expert in the process. And so I started sharing this, and I decided a couple of years to write a handbook that takes you from the beginning when you start to look for a job right up until you accept the offer. And then from there, I've been writing articles. I started my blog, and I'm just very passionate about it. We're talking about veterans. But college grads, people over 50, they have to start over again. But when it concerns veterans, in 1986, when I left active duty, I thought that I'd be welcomed with my background because I had a really good military past and a good experience. It was not the case, and it was very tough. And now I know it's even tougher for veterans. And so for me, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It's very important to me that I can help veterans where I can, and that's why I'm really glad that I can talk to you.
You're in a really unique situation because being in between the two, you're able to get both sides' perspectives. You're able to see what both sides want and expect, and you're able to see the things that really work and the things that don't. And I'm sure they've got to be different with just about every situation that's out there. But when you talk to somebody, that knowledge that you have, that's priceless information. Thank you for being willing to share that with everybody.
No, thank you. You mentioned at the beginning, being adaptive and improvising, and that's what we have to do, especially now when we look for jobs. What I specialize in is helping people empower themselves, and that means going beyond the point and click. That means going beyond the resume, and these are the soft skills that have been lost in a generation. And so this is what I do. I coach people on how to overcome obstacles. And I also teach them how to be different from everybody else. For example, if you are doing everything like everyone else, you look like everyone else, you have a resume, you're not being any different, why should anyone choose you instead of anyone else? You've got to be individual. You've got to be different. You've got to do extra things, and that's what I help coach people to do.
Yeah, part of that is, and one of the maybe biggest gripes that I have, or gripe's not the right term, but when I talk to a veteran and they're going through maybe some job difficulties as they transition, if they would only commit to working as hard at obtaining that next career goal, whether it's a job or advanced degree or whatever it is, if they worked as hard at that as they worked to become a paratrooper or an Army Ranger or a Marine 11 Bravo, they seem to think that having gone through all that hard stuff before, that pre-qualifies them from having to do things that might be uncomfortable or that might really push them to go to the next job. It's like they should be awarded a job based on what they did in their military service, and it doesn't work that way. Everybody has to work their butt off to land and keep a job out there. There isn't anything that's given to anybody, and when you get into the civilian economy, it's even more cutthroat, because if you're not providing some sort of value to the man or woman that writes your paycheck, you're gone. And keeping and maintaining the ability to provide that value for that organization is really critical.
Well, I agree with you, and part of the problem is just this concept, with the internet, that everything, for some reason people think that we live like George Jetson, you push a button and you got a pot roast, and it doesn't work like that. We still have to do these things, as you said, and what I find is you don't have to do a whole lot to make a difference. There's many things you can do, and the more things you do, the more you increase your chances. But if you're relying on a resume to do your speaking for you, you're making a mistake. That resume, you could have the best resume around, but once you are seated in front of a hiring manager and he says, "Tell me about yourself," at that moment, your resume has outlived its usefulness except for a database file. And then what are you going to say? Are you going to repeat what's on your resume? Why? He's already got that. The hiring manager's already got that. You've got to do more than that. And so, yeah, it is, as you say, you've got to step out of your comfort zone. We all did it in the military because we wanted to attain goals. We all pushed ourselves. We all strove to be better. But yet now there are people that they're just scared to step out of their comfort zone, but that's exactly what's necessary.
When you talk to veterans, do you see some of them having difficulty going from a career of service to one that's more of a, how can I put more money in my pocket? Is there a little bit of a mental leap that they have to go from one to the other? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, and I've long thought about it, and I think one of the reasons that, well, first of all, we've got the challenge of transitioning and getting into the job market at a time when people are fighting over mediocre jobs. Now, there are good jobs out there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it, I just think that there's this mindset that a sense of entitlement, and none of us have that. You know, we've all got to. One thing that makes a difference, if you're making that transition, we're all ex-military. When we were in the military, everything is by regulation. There's protocol, chain of command. Everything is definite. We know what's going on. When we step into the civilian world, it's different. Protocol? Really? Regulations? It's so gray that I think that a lot of people have difficulty finding their footing when they make that kind of transition. So I do think it's very difficult for veterans. And that first year is critical. People that think, well, I'm just going to get out and I'm going to relax and enjoy my friends and family, I think are making a mistake. I think that 6 months before you're about to exit, you should be doing something. But what if you're already out? If you're already out, you got to start from the ground up. Resume is important, presenting yourself, and I have a long process of how one should present themselves with something called a FAB presentation, feature, accomplishment, benefit, and I can explain that another time.
Yeah, one of the things that we're talking about is a weekly feature on the New American Veteran, where you give us a couple, 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5, the tip of the week, the employment or the career tip of the week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing those come through, because I think they're going to be extremely valuable, and especially with your perspective, a lot of the headhunters that are out there, they're not veterans, so they don't understand. I talk to, gosh, people that are human resources professionals that say, you know, I want to help a veteran out, let me help them write their resume. They don't have a clue how to translate the skills, and they don't even know what questions to ask. And so it's interesting sometimes to see the result that comes of that. I want to pop up here on the screen your blog, and maybe you can talk a little bit about what this is, how people can maybe subscribe to it, what do they get out of going and looking at your career quest?
Well, when I started it, and if you scroll to the bottom of the page, it talks about, it is all about you, the individual, and I don't mean it from a narcissistic point of view, but I really tire of the very vanilla, generic, one-size-fits-all world that we're in right now, because that status quo just isn't making it happen. Like I said earlier, you got to step aside and be a little bit different. So I'm very much into individuality, because if I can help someone empower themselves, that means they're going to gain a little bit of freedom. If they get a little bit more freedom because they feel empowered, that means that they regain, if it's been missing, some self-respect and some self-confidence. The blog, what I do weekly is I try to address current events. I try to give some advice. I do bitch and complain a little bit about the status quo. It's funny, the advice items don't get a lot of comments, but if I complain, I get a lot of comments. But I have archives that stretch back a couple of years. Cover letters, I discuss cover letters. Follow-up after an interview. Money, when to discuss money, when it's improper to discuss money. And when I say improper, it's usually when it's too early to discuss it. References, what kind of references, how to negotiate, how to close an interview. So I cover a lot of these things, and the archives are pretty full. Also, if you look on the blog, you'll see something called Formidable You, and it's meant to look like a university thing. And there, I conduct a 5-hour lecture to universities, and just a little bit of a difference, but if you go and click on that, it takes a while to load, but there are about 25 10-minute videos, and it's from these that I'm going to provide you the small little sections with the tip of the day kind of thing.
Excellent. That's outstanding. Very good. You're also an author. Talk about your book.
Like I say, I had decided that, most advice out there, you talk to people, it's all the same. Resume, being online, social networking, and while that's important, it's just the tip of the iceberg. So with my book, I go from the very moment someone decides that they want to look for a new job, right up on through every step of the process until they receive an offer, and how you handle a verbal offer as opposed to a written offer. There's a difference in how you should treat that. How to accept, and I also give advice how people should resign a job. If you're working and you're doing a very good job, it's very likely you may go to resign. Your employer doesn't want you to leave, and then all of a sudden you've got another headache because you just want to go to a new job. So I cover all of these things in the book. I was very, very, very fortunate. I had sent a couple of copies to ask for endorsements, and I was so flattered that Dr. Ben Carson had replied and provided me an endorsement.
That's a pretty big honor. Get you a lot of coverage, doesn't it? Good. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So with the book, I mean, I tried to make it as a very quick reference thing. The ebook is easily available. The paperback is on Amazon, and it's small enough that you can take it to the interview and quick reference it. It's easy to access all the different sections, and I think the advice that I give is timeless. It's the same stuff that works since 1992. Technology is great, but it's not the only thing you can do. These things are time tested. They never go out of style, and the reason they're so effective now is because no one knows how to do this stuff anymore. So I highly encourage people to check out my blog. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. But if you want the information all in one place, yeah, I do think people should check out the handbook.
No, that sounds great. I'll make sure that there's a link of the handbook where they can pick up a copy of that, provided in the write-up that goes along with this. And Michael, I'm looking forward to the spots that we're going to include in the show. People get tired of just seeing my face sometimes, and I think that'll help bring an extra level of entertainment and timeliness that there are a lot of people out there that are working through. So I appreciate you being on the show today. Anything else you want to say before we conclude the interview?
Yeah, I just think that right now, especially for veterans that are making transition, like I said earlier, we've all had challenges in life, and making that transition can be one of the biggest. And so, if I can help out and via your network here, I am most happy to do it. I look forward to speaking with you again on a regular basis. And, if anyone wants to send me a message, I can't say that I can answer everything, but I'm happy to try, because this is kind of that giving back thing. We're all veterans, and we've all covered each other's backs in the past, and I think it's more important now than ever.
And that's the whole theme of everything that Gallant Few does, because there are so many veterans that are out there that are absolutely willing and eager to help out another veteran, but you can't find them. Nobody connects them. The VA has nothing set up to connect them. The major service organizations are falling down and doing that. They're only catering to one population and not the ones that really need the assistance. So what you're doing is great. You're going to be an important part of our work, I think, going forward, and really enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Carl. I appreciate it.
Michael, thank you. All right, so you should be able to catch Gallant Few's The New American Veteran every Tuesday afternoon, 2 o'clock Central. If you go to www.vetsonmedia.com/tnav, you're going to find all the archives. You're going to find a link to the audio archives there, as well as the YouTube videos. You can watch them from vetsonmedia.com, or if you like Podbean, you can find Gallant Few on Podbean. You can listen to that through your computer or your handheld device. Or if you're an iTunes user, if you search in the podcast library for Gallant Few, you're going to find The New American Veteran. So we've had some great topics. We continue to have great topics. If you'd like to be on this show, please reach out to me. GallantFew.org, top right corner, you'll find my mobile phone number and my email address. And certainly if you have any issues related to military transition in any of the ways, and we talk about 5 ways that we believe that every veteran should have a good level of fitness, and one is emotional fitness, one is physical fitness, one is financial fitness, one is professional fitness, and one is social fitness. So, if you think that you need to have a little bit of assistance, or you need some help putting a plan together, or you don't even know what we're talking about here, check out gallantfew.org and we'll get you connected. I'm going to conclude the show today with, if the rest of everything works technologically well, I'm glad that we got through this so far, with, I always play taps at the end of the show, and then it's got our closeout stuff after that. But God bless you. Thanks for being on the show today. May God bless the men and women that serve our nation in the military, those that have served in the military, and also always have to give a special shout out and prayer for protection for the men and the women that serve with the men of the 75th Ranger Regiment, because those are the rough men that stand ready in the dark to visit violence on those that would do us harm. Thank you for listening to Gallant Fuse, the New American Veteran. Special thanks to Michael Broderick, Kenny Thomas, Tim Abel, Jim O'Farrell, and Madison Rising for permission to use their audio recordings on this broadcast. That rendition of taps is a public domain recording created by a soldier or employee of the United States government, and as such is not subject to copyright protection. This has been a production of Gallant Fuse, the New American Veteran, a proud member of the Vets on Media Global Network, all rights reserved. Learn more at www.gallantfew.org.